Hey, and we're live. So let me just maximize my screen here. So everybody, please bear with me just a second here. I'm actually in a new studio space here. I know it's been a long time since we have had any of these chats, and so I am in a new studio space. Still kind of working it out. My teleprompter that I'm looking into is at least 6 or 7 feet away. So I don't know if I'm gonna be able to read any of your comments yet, but I hope so. So I will give it a minute or so for some of you to be joining me because it looks like nobody is yet. And I know this was just an impromptu stream. Just been working on this project with the studio right here, and I figured, you know what, I just have to bite the bullet and get it up and running as quick and dirty as it is, and see what's what. I don't know if my camera is focusing on my face. I hope it is. So, I've got janky patches and stuff all over the place to make this work right now. So I wanted to do a quick stream. One, because you haven't seen a lot of me recently, and the other reason is because some crackhead stole my tripod. So and I'm not exaggerating. Now, in fairness, I don't know if it was actually a crackhead because I didn't see who did it, who walked off with it. But I am in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we have a lot of folks living on the street here. And I use the term crackhead colloquially. Back in my day, it was crackhead because everybody was on crack, and then came tweakers. And so you call them tweakers. Nowadays, I think the street drug of choice is the fentanyl, and I'm not really sure if there's a colloquial term for somebody who's on fentanyl. So I use crackhead, and everybody understands what I mean. So here's how it happened. And I was just trying to be a good Samaritan, I swear. So I was shooting a house, and I just got done shooting the house, and I was sitting inside the house with the agent that I was working for at the time, and we heard a dog yelping in pain. Now, this particular house is on a very busy street, and so we thought one of the sellers' two dogs that were supposed to be in the backyard had gotten out and had gotten hit by a car. So her and I go running out to find, luckily, that the dogs had not gotten out and gotten hit by a car, but one of them had gotten its head wedged underneath the gate to the fence. So, dogs are stupid, right? He put his head under the fence and then kind of moved to a spot where the clearance was a little bit tighter, and he got his head trapped, and he didn't like that. So I wanted to free the dog. I like dogs. So I just kind of dropped everything I had, including my tripod and my tripod head. And the value of that is significant. We'll get into that. So I can go and help free this dog. And so I did. Her and I, we took the dog and we kind of moved him back to where his head would fit again and popped him back through to the backyard. Now, in all of that, I forgot my tripod was sitting right beside my van. So I went to my next job, which was only a few miles away, loaded up my gear, dog's okay, house is shot, went to my next job a few miles away. And when I went to photograph that house, I saw that where I typically put my tripod, it's in the same place all the time in the van, it was not there. Quickly realized, oh, I must have left it back at this other address. So I go back there, the thing's gone. I can look back at my aerial photos from shooting this house and see it where I had left it. And it wasn't there for that long. And somebody just walked off with it. So, I told this story to a couple of my friends, Jeremy Deal. He shoots a lot of real estate. And he said, I've had things, I've lleft things in houses before, he said, and I've left things outside of houses, and it's always been there, and I've gone back, or the homeowner has called me saying, hey, you left this at my house, and it's always been there. And I said, yeah, you've never been to California. So we have a lot of people with drug problems here, and they jack stuff. So this tripod that I lost, and I since have replaced with the exact same tripod, because for me, it is the absolute best one for what I do shooting interiors, is a Pro Media Gear 3-section with a center column carbon tripod. I think the sticks are like $1,200. It's a high-end tripod. It's it's competitive with the Gitzos and the Really Right Stuffs and all that. It's that level tripod. And the head was an Arca Swiss D4 geared head about the same price. It's like 11, 12, 1300 bucks, whatever it is, right? So it's about a $2,500 tripod that that I just got jacked, and that sucks. And the thing that's funny about this too is, so I went through the motions and I called the local camera shop. If this thing shows up in your shop, please give me a call. And they all know me, and so they would. I did, looked in Facebook Marketplace, looked at Craigslist, looked at eBay, all these types of things. I filed a police report with the police department of the city that I was in at the time, and and told them what it was and such. Now, what's funny about this is the house that I was photographing is actually right across the main road from the police department in this particular city. And now this is a small city. Okay, so I'm in Sonoma County, and those of you who know the Bay Area probably may not know the town of Cotati. So it's a little tiny town that's right between Roanoke Park and Petaluma. And so it's a little tiny town, little tiny police department, but they were right across the street. Filed I guess just an incident. It's not really a report. The gal wasn't like super helpful, but she gave me an incident number. So that way, if it turned up in any kind of pawn shop or turned up in the camera shop and I could figure it out, I could at least have that on my side. So the police department faces kind of the house that I was photographing, and there are cameras all over the building, but apparently there aren't any cameras that show right where that would have been. And it's kind of it's not really out in the open either, which is weird. Like it would have taken somebody walking by it and purposely noticing it over there and then picking it up and walking off with it. So $2,500 tripod, now it's gone. So I wanted to maybe get this live discussion going, because it brings up really it brings up other questions about how do you keep your gear safe? How do you keep your gear safe? How do you keep yourself safe when you're out there shooting? Do you have insurance for your gear? Do you carry? In states where it's easier to carry. In California, it's not that easier to carry. I don't have a CCW. I've thought about getting one because there are photographers out there that are getting robbed, like strong arm robbed. So I've thought about it, but I don't carry. I don't have my CCW. Might at some point. I know other photographers that I know actually carry in states where it is a little bit easier to do so. But what do you do to keep your gear safe? So I have insurance on my gear. It isn't a lot. It's something where I'd set up the policy a few years ago where my gear and the total value of it and the total value of the gear that I bring with me in my production van all the time was less than it is now. So I didn't even go through that route. I'm somebody like, okay, so I have insurance. I obviously have health insurance. I have auto insurance. I have insurance on my home. I have all these kinds of things, but I don't like using insurance because that always just opens you up to scrutiny. And so now the tripod, even though it was a $2,500 tripod, it did not have the Canon R5C that I was shooting at the time on it. The R5C and the 15-35 lens and everything, it didn't have all that that I was using at the time on it. So I guess that's a plus, that it was a $2,500 walked off and not a whatever that number would be, $7,000, $8,000 walking off. But I just ate it. Like I said, I'm probably underinsured anyway, and I didn't want to have to fight. This is my busy season. I've got work to do. And it would have been a deductible anyway. So, and I needed something now. Right. So, I'm just going to pose to the audience here. If somebody wants to leave a comment, or if somebody, I'm going to leave this up for a replay. I know it was a quick live stream that I decided to do. What do you think about the new space too? So I've got this new space that I'm in, and it's not going to be so barren. I'm waiting on a couple pieces of sound treatment. I'm going to hang a couple of clouds on the ceiling, and I'm going to put I found these really cool panels that they're made out of old coffee sacks, and they're 2-inch rock wool panels. I found them on Amazon, and they review really well. So I'm going to put a couple of those on the wall too, just to kind of just at the first reflection points to kind of tame it a little bit in this room. But I'm not going to go too crazy on it. This actually is still in my home. It's the biggest room in my home, and you can't really see that from where this is right right here, because I'm still trying to figure out. So this is a 50 millimeter on a Super 35 sensor, so it's about an 85 millimeter full frame perspective, and it can go back a bit further than where it is too. So I'm still just trying to figure out the angles I want to shoot and such. I don't necessarily want this to look like a cavernous room on camera, but I'm trying to use this room as a multi-purpose room, so I've got all my my editing rig and such over there too. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you would do as far as, or what you do as far as security goes. Like I said, I know photographers, I know interiors photographers, architectural photographers who do carry. And here in the Bay Area, there have been a few incidents of late that have been very prominent. There was actually a gentleman who was working security with a news crew who got killed in Oakland when they got robbed for their equipment a couple years ago. And it was big news at the time because he was a TV station employee and such. He was actually a former police officer, and he got shot and killed during that. There is a video that is also a couple years ago that made its rounds on the internet and everywhere else of in San Francisco proper on the freeway going through the 101 in traffic, thieves running up and smashing the back hatch of a Prius and stealing a photographer's bag out of it. And then a personal story. Okay, I know a photographer, know her well, who was dragged she was photographing, she's a portraiture photographer, and she was photographing probably like an engagement session or something. And a car full of men drove up beside her and grabbed her camera strap, and her camera strap was strong enough, or maybe she was clutching onto it too, that she actually was dragged for however long, not miles, but yards anyway, before she just ended up giving up, and they stole her camera and the lens on it, a full frame Canon camera. So, stuff like that just does happen, especially if you're in more urban places. Crime is a real thing. So crime this time got me for a $2,500 tripod. Just wanted to pop on and talk about that. I will go ahead and end this stream. And let me just tell you why you haven't seen me a lot lately. This is my busy season. Now, I had been doing a bunch of videos previously about how real estate photography is going to be different in 2023, and that's because the market had turned negative, in a bad way for real estate photography. But as of right now, this seems a lot like May of 2022. Maybe a little bit down, but spring has sprung around here. I shot 15 houses last week. I've got nearly that much again to do this coming week. And so I'm busy all of a sudden. And that happened about a month ago. So that's why you haven't seen a lot of me lately. But now that I have this new space set up, I'm going to start putting out videos at a greater clip because I enjoy doing it. So anyway, shout me out in the comments here. And it was good to see the few of you who did join me. And I'll see you again soon. Peace.